Hello, this is Angelia with today's wisdom. Today's wisdom comes from Daily Ohm, the wisdom of surrender. Resistance equals persistence. We all know the feeling of being repeatedly haunted by the same issue, no matter how we try to ignore it, avoid it, or run away from it. Sometimes it seems, now excuse me here. All right, sorry about that. Excuse me. Sometimes it seems that we can get rid of it if we don't want it by simply pushing it away. Most of the time, the more we push away, the more we get pushed back. There are laws of physics and metaphysics that explain this phenomenon, which is often summed up in this pithy phrase: that which you resist persists. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes we have lessons to learn, and something's always, going on in our life, and we're just like, I don't want to deal with this, but it keeps coming up until you do deal with it. So, it's a thing. Resistance tends to strengthen the energies it attempts to oppose by giving them power and energy to work against. Additionally, resistance keeps us from learning more about what we resist. In order to fully understand something, we must open to it enough to receive its energy. Otherwise, we remain ignorant of its lessons. Because, if you don't fix a problem, it keeps being a problem. And it will keep returning and returning and returning until you make it not a problem. That's simple logic, right? There is a Tibetan story of a monk who retreats to meditate in a cave only to be plagued by demons. He tries everything: chasing, fighting, hiding, to get the demons out of his cave. But the thing that finally works is surrender. He simply lets them have their way with him, and only then do they disappear. Now, I don't recommend that, but the point is that if you just let things be and don't fight them, then it'll go easier on you. Because sometimes we need to stand up and fight for what is right. But sometimes we're not in the right fight, so you have to think about it. As the saying goes, pick your battles. So now this wisdom must be applied practically. See, they're saying that too. We are not meant to get ourselves physically injured. Instead, this story speaks of how, in essence, our demons are inside of us. What plagues and pursues us on an inner level has a way of manifesting itself in our environment in the form of people, events, and issues that appear to be beyond our control. And that's a key thing there. Appears to be beyond your control. There are things that are going to be beyond your control, but sometimes things only appear to be beyond your control. And on your journey of realizing yourself, sometimes we find out that we have allowed things in our life that we didn't have to. And so we might have thought this was beyond my control, but it really wasn't. So, excuse me, I'm trying to not sneeze. Bless me, Lord. Bless me, Lord. But all these external expressions are reflections of our insides, and it is inside ourselves that we can safely experiment with surrendering to what we fear and dislike. Now, that doesn't mean you got to put yourself in a harm's way, but sometimes we have irrational fears, and sometimes we don't want to do things we dislike. I was having a discussion with someone, one of my coaching clients years ago, and she didn't like doing anything that was hard. If something got to be hard, she quit. She didn't want to deal with it no more. If it didn't come easy, she didn't want to deal with it. But life's not easy. No one said it was going to be easy. In fact, Jesus said it's going to be hard. So if you want something, you need to do the work necessary to get it, right? you can't quit just because it gets to be hard. And so she had jumped around from like job to job, hobby to hobby, never like finishing anything, because when it got hard, she quit. You know, she didn't evidently hear the saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. You know, she didn't want to do anything that was hard. She just didn't want to do anything that was easy. And you're not going to live your life, the life that you want, if you do that. It may feel scary, and we may find ourselves in the company of a lot of resistance as we begin the process of opening to what we fear. And heck yes, you can. When I came out with what happened to me as a child growing up, I was called a liar. I was come against, and fortunately, my mother had similar things happen to her, so she asked me, "Tell me what happened." You know, she took me out to lunch. We had a little meeting. Tell me what happened. And so I did. And come to find out, the same thing happened to her. So, you know, but other people in the family came out against me, said I'm lying, making this stuff up, blah, blah, blah. People out in the community, you know, oh, she's just doing this so she can, you know, get somewhere in her business or blah, blah, blah. And none of that was true. I knew the truth. And honestly, God knew the truth. My mom knew the truth. Once I told her, she saw the signs and said, had I but known. But of course, we can't go back in time and fix things, you know. We begin the process of opening to what we fear. And so even though I went to therapy, and group therapy, I decided to write about it because I met other people who had similar things happen to them. And when you're in a situation like that, you feel very alone. Especially if people have come against you, you feel very alone. And you feel like no one else could have lived through this. No one else could have done, you know, has ever had this happen to them. And of course, that's not true. So in writing about it, you know, I hope to open that door that a lot of people like to not open, for other people so that they can read and take care of their own business, take out their own garbage, so to speak. But the more we learn to surrender, and the more the demons that plague us disappear in the process, the more courageous we will become. Because if you don't take out the garbage, what happens? It sits there and rots and festers. Same thing with the garbage inside of you. You got to purge that stuff. You got to purge it. You got to get it out. If you held it all in all these years, then you know all it's caused you is misery and pain. And you would not believe the weight that it lifts off of you when you purge and take out the garbage. It just makes all the difference in your life. Life becomes so much easier because then you're not carrying this burden, this secret around with you that wasn't yours to begin with. So resistance equals persistence. The things in your life that you're resisting dealing with are going to persist until you deal with them. So it's wise of you to surrender and take care of your business. Think about it. That's all for now.